KNES 310 Spring 2020. It is I, your professor, content instructor, Brian Campbell. No Bucky today. He's at work. He's finished his rehab and his shoulder is all better. And so Bucky is slinging those $100 bills at Bucky's. We have to talk. I want to do this little short video to make sure we're all on the same page moving forward and remind each and every one of you that there's still time. There's always time. There's still time to show vast improvement. There's still time to get on that train and make the adjustments and learn from past mistakes and oopses. Just like we all have at one point in our lives. I've had a lot of oopses. That's what makes you grow, okay? So don't take any previous bumps personal. Don't take a previous exam where you messed up or you thought left from right, or don't take it personal. Say, you know what? Now I know. And I know how to study now. And I know what I'm missing now. And I'm going to knock the next test out of the park. That's the mindset you should have, okay? So this little pep talk is meant to be positive and encouraging. I'm going to try to be more encouraging than K-Love. 24-hour office hours. Let's see what I'm listening to. Ooh, Air Supply. Let me change it to Pearl Jam. 24-hour office hours. I talked to 3 students yesterday. Text me. Dr. Campbell, do you have a minute to add a question? Absolutely. Called. We FaceTimed. Got it cleared. All good. Back on the path. And I do that on purpose because I don't know when you're going to be studying. And so I want to make sure your questions are answered immediately. That was horrible. But all right, I'll work on it. Immediately, if you're studying and you have a question, I want it clarified. I want to clarify it while it's in your brain, while it's bouncing around in that noggin of yours. So don't hesitate. Now look, am I old? Yeah. Do I go to bed early? Yeah. Do I wake up early? Yeah. But if I'm awake, I'll make myself available as soon as possible so that we can clarify the questions you have. I mean, that's take advantage of it. Let me help you. Help me help you. And so if you go to your main Moodle page, I'm just going to break down kind of what we have left. The main Moodle page has everything. Everything. It has all your lectures, right? Exam 1 material, Exam 1 lecture, Exam 2 material, Exam 2 lecture, Exam 3 material. That's where we are right now. Exam 3 material. And I've given you all the material. There's no new material. This week starts final exam material. And to answer that question right away, it's called the final because it's during finals week, but it's your final exam. It's your last test. It's your final test. Someone may say, well, is it cumulative? Indirectly, I'm not going to ask you specific questions that were on your first, second, or third test, but there's going to be indirect inferences that you're going to have to know. Like if I'm asking you muscles that influence the shoulder, you better know what abduction and adduction is, and you better know what elbow extension and elbow flexion is, and you better know what scapular retraction and protraction is, so that you could tell me which muscles are influencing those motions. So will I ask you specific motion questions? No, but will it be part of how muscles influence motion? You betcha. Okay, so final exam is last test. Those two are synonymous. But there's the date that's on Moodle. So if you're like, when's our final? Usually I'm like, you're old enough to look it up yourself, but I even posted it for you. So the final exam is Thursday, May 6th. And if you forget it, no problem. Just go to Moodle and look up the tab that says, so we have exam 3, Wednesday, March 31st. Don't forget about that. then exam 4 material, which is going to start this week. And then your last test is Thursday, May 6th. Okay? And that's going to be on how muscles influence motion. Look how everything is set up. I put so much stock in showing you guys how movement really works and looks, especially illusions. That's important because a lot of motion that we observe has illusionary effects, right? That's on your upcoming test. And now what we'll put is, well, how do muscles influence motion? And that's what I'm going to teach you in the last part, okay? So again, Moodle has all of the lectures. Watch them as many times as you want. Ask questions, clarifications. That's why I'm here, is to help and clarify. I'm here every morning. So I thought I made that clear, but if I didn't, that's my fault. I'm going to try to make it more clear. I'm here every morning. Every morning. So if phone doesn't work for you and you want some one-on-one, we'll socially distantly. I got a whole box of masks, and we can come into the Carlson room where there's plenty of space, and I will literally help you try to get it, clarify it, see it. Okay? I'll do what I can, but you got to help me help you. So, once again, guys, going into this third test, everything is on here, all of the lectures, all of the content. You have your support materials at the top. That was someone who, didn't even know we had support materials. That was in the introductory syllabus video that I explained the support materials and told you where it is. But my point is that that's an okay question to ask. Like, Dr. Campbell, you have a lot of lectures, but do we have any, like, is there a book or is there? Yeah, we have support materials. That's a Word document that you download and you could print out or look at. Oh, okay, thank you. I didn't see it. Guys, that happens, okay? But you got to ask. Well, they're there, but if you just kind of like, that doesn't seem right, we don't have any books or materials for it, just ask. Sometimes the jelly is staring me right in the face in the refrigerator, and I'm like, ask my wife, I'm like, Lucy, do we have any jelly? And she's like, dude, it's right there in front of you. And I'm like, oh yeah, I saw it. I was just seeing if you remembered. So, Positive Possum says you can do the thing. And help me help you. That's the key points of this little pep talk, is help me help you. I can't help you to clarify content if you don't help me help you. Okay, so this is how, man, I want to beat that dead horse. Not literally, I love animals, but just metaphorically speaking. Pelvic girdle rotations because of trunk motion, right? So hanging from a bar, feet off the ground, the pelvis and trunk are going to spin in opposition, right? Right transverse pelvic, left transverse trunk, left transverse pelvic, right transverse trunk. Frontal plane is going to be in opposition, left lateral pelvic, right lateral trunk, right lateral pelvic, left lateral trunk. The sagittal is going to be posterior with trunk flexion, anterior with trunk extension. You have cervical stuff, right? Cervical vertebra, just like the trunk. Left lateral, left transverse, right transverse, flexion, extension. Looks like it's moving, and it is. What about it looks like it's not moving, but it is? Right transverse, because the only way to go from my nose lined up with my sternum to me looking at my right shoulder is to have right transverse. So that can happen by me doing this, or it can happen by me doing that. Hey, right shoulder, what's up, man? Good to see you. Another way to look at it, I start in anatomical position, everything's lined up, yay. I do this, I am not home anymore, I am not in anatomical position anymore. Hey, cervical vertebra, go back home. It's time for dinner. Sure, I'd have to spin to the left to go back home, therefore I had to spin to the right when I left home. Different ways that may work for different people, okay? So you got to know cervical motions and positions. In the wrist lecture, biaxial ellipsoid joint, flexion, extension, ulnar radial deviation. Remember, the wrist doesn't twist. That's the radial ulnar joint, okay? It's the radial ulnar joint. The hand part goes along for the ride. But again, think about it. I say this in the lecture, but it's important to understand. If the wrist spun, you have so many wires and nerves and arteries. You do not want to twist. You know what you do with balloons? You blow up a balloon, you twist it like the balloon animal artist. You don't want that to happen here. You have way too many wires and vessels to actually twist the wrist. The wrist doesn't twist, as the radial ulnar joint said. All the wires can stay nice and in line, okay? Elbow radial ulnar joint, two separate joints, right? Elbow, a literal hinge, just like the fingers. Radial ulnar joint. So they live in the same apartment complex. They live in the same capsule, but it's two separate articulations. Radial ulnar joint is a pivot joint, a uniaxial pivot, meaning that the one axis is a longitudinal polar axis, and it has more pure rotation. Doesn't this look like more pure rotation than this? It's a lot of general motion in there. Translation and rotation, okay? Shoulder joint, okay? Shoulder, ball and socket can move in all three planes. Sagittal plane, flexion, extension, ab, add, internal, external, okay? Scapula helps the shoulder. Scapula movement. Think of the scapula as the bone where the socket is. It lives on it's part of that bone. Let's see. Come here. Come here, buddy. All right. So go back to the lecture if you want more detail. I'm just kind of giving you a summary. But look, there's the socket. That's like a golf tee, right? So if you think about it, if the scapula moves, the socket moves. And as long as there's no dislocation, if the socket moves, the ball is going to move. It's going to go along for the ride, okay? So the scapula helps. There's the scapula. There's my golf tee. See it? There's the ball. So if the scapula moves, the shoulder kind of goes along for the ride. So that's important when we're trying to bring our arm forward. The scapula can protract to help us. When we're trying to bring our arm back, like horizontal abduction, the scapula can retract to help us. It can also help if we're trying to reach down. It can depress to help us. And also when we're reaching up, it can elevate and upwardly rotate to reposition the glenohumeral joint, okay? That's all more in detail in the shoulder lecture. Go back and check it out. It's a doozy. I said doozy. So shoulder girdle, emphasis on shoulder joint, glenohumeral. Then I did a micro lecture on the difference between right and left. That's when I had my guest instructor. And then emphasis on scapulothoracic articulations. Again, man, how the scapula helps the shoulder is really amazing, really cool. Okay. One emphasis that I'll make while I have you here, I'll turn this into a little micro lecture. But remember, so golf ball isn't like a literal golf ball. It's more like kind of a half a golf ball. But this smooth part has to stay on the golf tee. You can't articulate not smooth stuff on the golf tee. That's bad. I've got a bone to pick with you. So how do we make sure that that golf ball stays on that golf tee when I can get my arm all the way up over my head? Magic. So one of the things that happens is if I'm abducting and I run out of real estate, right? Look, I run out of golf ball. I can rotate ever so slightly. So now I can continue on the path of smoothness. You see that trick? That happens naturally in the sagittal plane. If you go sagittal, it's going to stay articulated the whole time. It gets you to the same place. Abduction and external rotation and the continuation of the abduction gets you to the same place as flexion. It's really cool. Okay. Also, the scapula can help. Let's see here, it gets me about 120, and the scapula is like, I'm going to help you out. Repositioning the socket. So again, really that is a great explanation of global and local references. Globally, it looks like you could abduct 180 degrees. Globally. But locally, you kind of have some help from the scapula, okay? All right, I hope this helps. I hope you are motivated. I hope you know where you messed up, and we can make improvements, and we can try. I want to say try harder, try differently. Take different approaches that maybe didn't work for you last time, different studying, different strategies. I'm here to help. Okay, guys? Let's have a good week.